everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Gamut Network. I actually saved this hat for today's interview because I needed it to be extra fabulous for our guest today, because not only do I adore him, but he always kind of outshines the room. So I needed to really up my game. Hi, Russell.
Hi, Mindy. How you doing?
How are you? I'm so happy to see you and talk to you.
You too. I feel like I'm stuck in my little ivory tower down here.
I know, but at least you have the good hair for it.
Right, of course.
Yes, I love it. So, Russell, let's go back to the beginning, please,
Okay.
and tell us a little bit about your journey and your story.
Okay. Well, I was one of those little closeted queer Midwest boys who I was growing up in Kansas City, and actually started having some health problems right when I was a kid. I started noticing it kind of hurt to do things, and I couldn't really run, and I was really just accused of being this lazy person. So I never really took on a very active team kind of person growing up. I was much more of a loner and kind of kept to myself. But because of that, it gave me more time to explore who I was. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was ready to come out of the closet.
Amazing. Wow.
And actually tried. I actually went to my parents and tried to come out at 10, and they're like, there's no way. You wouldn't even know. And back then, you know, we're talking in the early 80s, people really didn't want to accept that their kid would come out that young. So I was shoved back in the closet for a few more years.
And then came out again later.
Came out again when I was 15. Well, first 14 to friends, and then came out to my family at 15. But I came out with my sexuality, my sexual orientation. And we're still struggling with some gender issues that at that time, it was really kind of hard to talk about. It wasn't really anything that was a public conversation.
Not like it is today.
Oh, right? God, no. I'm so jealous now.
I know. It's wonderful.
So I shoved all that stuff back inside, but because of the bad situation of being at home and being stuck in the Midwest, I ended up running away from home at 15 and ended up in San Francisco.
Oh my goodness. All right, but wait, before we get to that,
okay.
We have so much to talk about. Parallel to all of this happening with your sexual orientation and your gender identity, you also were dealing with some health issues as well.
Right. So at that time, everything always was being blamed, as I said, on like the laziness or just lack of motivation. But I noticed there was something else wrong besides just I had severe asthma and allergies, anything you could use to make an excuse, but there was something wrong with my body. And I couldn't explain it. It just hurt. And my mom was actually suffering from similar symptoms, but also wasn't diagnosed with the disease and wasn't talking about it because she had other health issues that took priority. So since there was no conversation about the symptoms, it really never came up. And then I didn't even think to bring it up to doctors. I honestly thought I was just complaining and whining too much, and would always just be accused, you just need to be more active. You just need to be, and I was heavy. By the time I reached my top weight, I was almost 280 pounds, and I'm 6'3".
Wow.
So I was a very massive guy, but just all fat. It was just, I hadn't even really exercised, I think, since I was 4 years old.
So you're almost, closeting two aspects at this point of your life. Your sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as you had a disease that you weren't able to almost come out with as well. So that's a tremendous amount for a young age that you were. So now you're 15, you've come out to your family. How are you, as you ran away to San Francisco, how were you physically? Were you still ambulatory? Talk to me about like where you were physically.
Physically, I think I was declining a bit, and I don't know how much of that had to do with just not getting medical attention and how much of that was the disease progressing, because it had a lot of stall periods, where like nothing would get worse for a very long period of time. And of course, you don't want to complain about it at that point. So I just wouldn't say anything. And that kind of went on all through my 20s. I didn't want to say anything to doctors. To explain better, my father was an extreme hypochondriac when I was growing up. And it was very open. We all knew about it. We knew he was making up a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
So I interpreted that as, don't complain about your medical problems. It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
Today something is going to be really wrong, and they're not going to be there for you when you need them. So since I thought this was something minor, and the way my dad always carried around about every little thing being the end of the world, I said, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And that just sort of got ingrained in me. And by the time I got to San Francisco and I was now this independent young adult, I never was going to bring it up, especially not going into the work field, and you don't want to not get a job because of medical issues.
That's a very interesting point, and something that I've definitely spoken about with previous guests about having to hide so many things in the workforce, whether that is your disability, your sexual orientation, or gender identification. That all was hidden. So you were hiding quite a bit at this stage of your life. Although when you were in San Francisco, did you officially come out to the world?
See, here's where I would have thought that would have happened, especially because the very first people to help me on the streets of San Francisco was a bunch of transgendered women who took me in and off the rainy streets, put a shelter over my head, put some food in my stomach, and made sure I stayed alive. And yet it still didn't give me the bravery to start talking about my gender problems. Because there also, at that time still, there was male, female, and transgender. That was where it kind of ended. You didn't even kind of explain things as female to male or male to female, or that there was anything else in between. There was, I forgot the correct term, where you're born with two sets of genitalia, hermaphrodite.
Uh-huh.
But that was it. There was nothing about what is it if you're born and you feel like you should be this other gender, but you don't really have the desire to change your physical outside. There wasn't a term or anything for that. So there wasn't really a conversation I could start about it, because I wasn't going to turn to people and say, yeah, I think I'm transgendered, because that wasn't it. So as wonderful as these women were that helped me, I couldn't even find the bravery to tell them. I think I'd been beaten down so long about keeping secrets that I couldn't even tell a stranger.
Wow. So fascinating. So now take us through to the point where you revealed the secrets, both with your identification and your disability. And did it happen simultaneously or at different times? I want to know about that.
There was a lifetime in between. Careers, cities, countries. I mean, I've moved and lived all over and done so many things, and kept my mouth shut about everything until I at one point decided I wanted to go back and get my college degree in broadcasting. So I moved back here to the Philadelphia area, and I started going to school and couldn't even walk to my classes. I mean, it started with one cane and then two canes and then a walker, and then literally begging professors, can I please skip 2 of your classes this week? I can't cross the campus. And it was getting worse and worse. And I kept writing it off to spine problems, because on top of my disease, I also inherited some horrible spine issues and had a work accident that damaged my spine.
So now what, at this point, was your disease made aware to you, and what was it?
So I had, in my 20s and early 30s, I started running on one of those elliptical machines inside, because it allowed me to finally be able to use my legs and take some of the pressure off my feet. And I got really good at it, and then I started getting really bad at it. Couldn't handle the pressure of my feet landing down. But once again, I kept my mouth shut, or I kept writing it off to spine problems, because I kept thinking, the nerves must be going through, so I'm just not going to tell anybody. But I mean, I went from that 6'3", 280 pounds to 150 pounds, toned, solid as could be. You wouldn't think there was a thing wrong with me physically. I mean, I looked like the picture of perfect health, but I was suffering inside so bad. And of course, when I get up here and I'm sitting here trying to, get from class to class, and my body is falling apart, and my now current spouse is watching this happening to me, finally got me to go speak up and say something. And I got a little bit of help, but I still kept my mouth shut until one day, this is post-graduating from college, I'm working my great new job in the advertising field, big time producer, so excited. I have a collapse at work one day.
Oh boy.
And that was literally the last day I've worked. From that, they discovered how bad the spine problems had gotten, but They couldn't understand I had all these symptoms that didn't match the spine problems. So for a little while, and this went on for almost 2 years, they almost made me think I was making it up, because a lot of people come in there and they complain because they want pain medication. And I'm sitting here coming in there going, I don't want your pain medication. I just want to know what's wrong with me.
Right.
And we did every doctor and every test. And finally, this one doctor ran a couple tests. He goes, I know what this is. You have this disease called Charcot-Marie tooth.
Mm.
And we're looking at each other like that's a dental problem or something. Like, what the hell is that? And we had to go do all the homework ourselves. And what was odd is for the last 6 months, in the middle of the night, I kept seeing these late night fundraising ads, and they kept talking about this disease called CMT. And I'm like, what a weird coincidence. And never in my life had I even noticed this. Then I start going and I'm reading on all the websites, and I'm like, that's me. That's describing my entire life, every symptom, every stage. The only thing that was throwing me off was the fact that I had this latency period.
Mm.
What I forgot to leave out is when I was born, there was a bunch of problems with my legs where they ended up putting me in those braces that, do you remember in the beginning of Forrest Gump?
Of course, who could forget?
Right. I had those same braces on my legs until I was about 3.5. And they just kept writing it off, saying, oh, he's got a crooked spine or something. But then they took the braces off and never addressed it again.
Mm.
So I'm sitting there reading all the stuff about the adolescent CMT, and I'm like, that was me. I had those braces. I had those problems. The only thing that we couldn't figure out at that point is there are several variations of CMT. And the only way to find out which variation you have is to have DNA genetic testing done, and it's very expensive. And the only way to get it paid for is to agree to be part of the testing for the medication.
Yes.
And I'm not willing to do that. I'm not into being a human guinea pig. As much as I want a cure and I want a treatment, I'm trying to treat so many other medical problems at the same time. I can't risk putting testing medication in me. So because of that, I can't find out which version of CMT I actually have. But it really doesn't matter because there are no treatments and there are no cures. They can
So how does it affect you at this? And first of all, how old are you now?
So I'm 42 now.
42. And so how has it affected? Let's catch up on your physical presence.
Okay.
And then I want to know about your journey of getting to where you are right now, being as fabulous as you are, and about Pink Oracle.
Okay. I'll give you the quick version. When this all started with the diagnosis and everything, at that point, I was still on just using the walker. We had an accelerated progression of the disease. And in a short window, in about 3.5 years, I went from that to forearm crutches to wheelchair. And because of some other medical issues, I was using aqua therapy to try to keep some strength in my legs. I can't get back in the pool now either. So I've now become a full-time wheelchair user. And the disease is progressing. But thankfully, the disease right now only stays in your feet and your legs and your hands and your arms. I don't really have to worry unless I start seeing problems with the disease getting into my lungs.
Got it. Okay.
So that's where we're kind of at right now. We're kind of learning how to live as an ambulatory wheelchair person. I moved into a wheelchair accessible condo about 2 years ago so that my life could be a little bit easier. And
it has been.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. And so now tell us about how you got to Pink Oracle, which is your company, and tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay, so deep down, I was always confused whether or not these feelings inside of me was just this desire of being a drag queen, or was there something more to it? But I heard about this event that RuPaul was throwing called DragCon in New York back in 2007, I think or 2017 was the first year. I got to go to this thing. And we loaded up the motored scooter into the car, and we got to this thing, and they had no idea that year how many people were going to show up. And it was so crowded. I couldn't get to a table. I couldn't get to a booth. It was like being in a fish of horny salmon. I couldn't move. And I was heartbroken. I'm like, here are all my heroes and all these places I've been dying to go to, and I couldn't get to a single one of them. And we got home after that weekend, and I was furious. But I was furious at the situation, not just at the DragCon situation itself, but I was for the first time being made aware of how inaccessible this world really is. And it made me want to do something. And I know there are a lot of organizations out there that are doing things that I didn't want to just replicate. I wanted to do something that was within my power and within my reach. And one of the things I have a reach in is I've been involved in the drag world for about 10 to 20 years, in and out. And I wanted to use the power of drag and the lack of accessibility in the drag world to bring the message out there that, first of all, everybody should get out of their house and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's drag that you want to do it. But you can't do it until they make that drag world accessible. And that means everything from drag con to the performance venues where the drag is taking place, or just anywhere in general. One of Pink Oracle's biggest messages is just get out and enjoy your life.
Mm.
You know, it started with getting out and enjoying a drag show. But then over the last couple of years, when I started seeing how much more of this world is inaccessible to people, I realized this message has to carry bigger. But the only way for me to do that is to express it as Pink Oracle, because Russell is this very shy person who was very good at secrets and keeping things in. And Pink Oracle is not. Pink Oracle will say anything, do anything, beat down any door, because I want people to get to enjoy this world as much as I've gotten to.
I love that.
I'm not done yet enjoying it, but in the meantime, let me use the time that I have left to let other people know that they can get out of their houses and they can go do things. I don't want people to get stuck because they think that they're immobile and that the world's not open to them anymore.
That is so beautiful. And also it is in line to what we're trying to do with the Gamut Network, in that share stories and journeys that people have been on who happen to have disabilities. It's not a defining metric of who you are. It's showing that, you know, people with disabilities come in all different shapes, sizes, sexual orientations, gender identities, you name it. And that's why I couldn't wait to have you on the show, because I think you embody that so beautifully. And certainly through Pink Oracle, you are going to make that change happen. And we want to help to support you in any way that you can. And just so everybody's clear, maybe you could scoot aside so everybody can see that. There we go. pinkoracle.com. If you want to find out more about what Russell is doing and about their mission, that is where you go.
And later today, I'll be relaunching the website. Got a new update to it. So we'll have that relaunched a little later.
Wonderful. Amazing. Now, Russell, before we go, I'd like to ask all of my guests one final question, and that's about the power of a vision board and putting your hopes, dreams, wishes, who you want to meet, anything that you want out there and present to manifest. If we got to peek onto Russell or Pink Oracle's vision board, what would we see on there? Or who would you want to meet?
Who would I want to meet? Right now, I want to meet my grandson. Not because I haven't met him before, but you know, that trapped in the house thing. But to be honest with you, I want to meet everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in, I'm not a celebrity hunter. I could care less if somebody's become famous. I want to meet people who are into humans of all kinds, who don't discriminate against anybody, who accept everybody into this world and understand how beautiful of a human being they are, no matter what package they come in. Mm. Those are the people that I find important. Those are the people that become my heroes. I don't think you're necessarily a hero because you came up with a makeup brand or, you know, you play baseball. Maybe you do some other things on the side that make you a hero while you're doing that. But it's how you accept people in the world. Mm. One thing that I heard a long time ago was class has nothing to do with how you dress and how you look. Class has to do with how welcome you make people feel.
I love that.
And I want
that
to be
is all about you.
Right. Let me be the classiest person that I can be in my life.
I love it. That's what I want, like splashed all over your vision board, that you are all class. And it was so wonderful to have you on the show. We are so grateful. Again, everybody, pinkoracle.com. There we go. You must go to it, explore it, find out about Russell and Pink Oracle, and let's just be the classiest people that we can be.
Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you for having me, Mindy. I feel so honored. You've had such wonderful people on the network that I feel honored to be a part of that.
Well, we are just as honored. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to be on the Gamut Network, please email us at talent@gamutmanagement.com to tell us why you'd be a great guest. Please also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Gamut Network, as well as follow us on our social media channels of Gamut Management. Thank you again, Russell.
Thanks, Mindy. Take care. Be safe.
You too.